Hello, I'm Dr. Kathleen Hall, and this is The Way I See It.
And my name's John Bailey. You can call me Bailey, and this is The Way I See It.
Hey, Bailey.
Hello.
Hi, honey bunny.
How you doing?
With our Coca-Cola shirt that I adore.
Oh, yeah.
We're in Hotlanta, so it is a sacred shirt, by the way.
It is.
Venerated. I'm surprised you haven't been taken down to have it taken off. Some people want emeralds, sapphires, diamonds. In Atlanta, it could be a Coca-Cola shirt.
A glass bottled Coca-Cola on a hot Georgia summer day. It's like a nectar of the gods.
Okay, well, let me tell you something real quick. We're going to what we're going to talk about today is clutter, but on the Coke thing, we should do a Coke thing. I just came off of being really, really sick. And what is the first thing you want when your stomach is upset and you don't feel good and you're laying there? A little ice cold, the 8 ounce in the bottle, the ice cold ones. Jim brought me over a Coke and he said, "This is exactly what you need." And tears streamed down my face, flooded back to being a little girl, a little child. When you were sick and had asthma with the vaporizer on me, and my daddy would bring me an ice cold Coca-Cola, and your tummy is sick, from all the medicine you have to take.
Right.
And just that little bit of kick
Nothing
of caffeine and sugar and sweetness and ice cold. And now it's got to be glass bottle, right?
And then that first sip where it kind of hurts, but it's like the best hurt.
Yes,
you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you're just like,
Okay, we are. We're going to write that on our list.
Yeah.
We have to do a Coca-Cola thing. We've got to do one because we love it, and there's all kind of nuances, and Melissa can help us with that and let us know different
She's got a
nuances.
lot of insider things, too.
And so what we thought we'd talk about is it's February-ish, and we're coming out of post-holiday, post-New Year's. We're a month from spring. The weather is transitional and yucky. In Atlanta, we're supposed to be getting snow tonight. People have been in, 2 weeks of rain. And so it's really an opportune time to talk about this subject, clutter. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Clutter, 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 and what clutter does to the body, mind, and soul. Living a cluttered life, which many of us, on many levels, psychologically, spiritually, technologically, we're living cluttered lives. So I thought this could be a little dive down for people to think about, reflect on, maybe do some actionable things while it's still creepy before we get the beautiful spring with the birds and the tulips and the flowers. It's a great little tiny projects you could do maybe to move along.
Cooped up in your house, snowed in, rained in, flooded in. We got some tips.
Declutter. And you know what? Again, I happen to be an expert in stress, and what we know is clutter is one of the biggest stressors. People don't really realize how clutter affects you. We've actually got studies that show that women who saw their homes as cluttered, when we actually tested their stress hormones, their cortisol level, which is the big stress hormone, were significantly higher throughout the day than those who had organized houses. So, you think, I feel I'm cluttered, a mess. Well, guess what? It is physiologically showing.
Wow.
And it doesn't get any easier. Research also shows adults in their 50s that have piles of stuff or clutter in their house are more likely than younger folks to put off making decisions. So not only are you over 50 and dealing with aging issues and dealing with clutter, but you can't make decisions. And I don't know about you, Bailey, but when I deal with people that cannot make decisions, because as you know, I'm the biggest decision maker.
You are a woman of action.
Oh my God. I don't want to use the word orgasmic, but making a decision just is like, high five, make the 3-point shot, fireworks. So, but again, it's really sad because then they get flooded. And by the time they see me for stress and depression or whatever, they've spent a long time not being able to make decisions. And guess what? It's kind of like mold or dust or anything. It builds up and up and up.
Yeah.
And also another study shows that your mind wanders. Researchers have found that being around disorganization makes it harder for your brain to focus. Actually, looking at people's brains and testing them, we see that the mind cannot be focused with clutter. That's kind of a cool study, right?
Yeah, I think that's beneficial too, because and that makes sense for someone who can be easily distracted at times. Like, oh, there's a butterfly. No, I'm just kidding. If you have a bunch of things in front of you, random objects, of course your mind will wander around those.
Well, and here you and I talk about families too, those of us listen to us that have children and things. If this is adult study, can you imagine with children that are living in a very cluttered house? Because kids are distracted because they're curious, right? They're curious about everything. Like you just said, butterfly, bee, something on the wall. So can you imagine adding to that tons and tons of clutter that if you have an ADD or ADHD child, that would even exacerbate
overload.
Absolutely.
Of course.
And the next two is dust collectors. We have more allergies than ever, especially in Atlanta, but still globally because of pollution. And when you have a lot of stuff, there's dust collecting everywhere, dust mites. And so that's going to affect your health tremendously, your immune system.
Oh, totally.
Overload of your immune system. And then another one is the embarrassment and the isolation that comes with this. I was a minister, a Methodist minister at a church, and I will never forget I had a family come into me and ask me to do an intervention for their mother. Wow. She was very, very, very wealthy, and she was at the end of her life, but she wouldn't let people go in, and they said, it's cluttered is the word they used. She was actually...
I already know where this is going.
Yeah, they actually didn't have... We didn't use the term hoarders way back then.
But that's kind of
right.
what it was.
And it was not a research thing. There weren't reality shows on hoarding we have now.
Which I love.
And I will never forget. So I was thinking, like in my home or my family, I grew up messy, a couple of newspapers from a few weeks.
Right.
Swear to God, when they opened that front door and had to push open the door, and there were newspapers from the top to the bottom, this is the God strike me dead truth, there were 12 to 18 inches that a human could sideways go through.
There was just a path, and everything else was
path, exactly.
Floor space was covered.
Exactly.
Wow.
Everything was covered. So we went through this maze or labyrinth back to where she was, where she had a TV, she had a chair. The bed was all in the same room because she had hoarded the bedroom, the bathroom, her master bath, everything. So she was now into one room. And part of their selfish reason for doing this was they were going to inherit all this. And she was at the end of her life. And they were going to have to. Exactly. They were going to have to go through it. And they also, in all fairness, wanted to know whether to move her to her home, and she would not leave, and she owned everything. And she was of clear mind. So it was very, very difficult situation. No, she's brilliant. And it was her money, her power, her mansion. So, but it was the reason I'm mentioning this, it was my first time ever to personally experience the horror of this. So then that was an educational experience. But fast forward later in life, this hoarding, as you well know, in the last years has become a psychological issue. There's television shows. And what I found out was about clutter is I found out a friend of ours, a very close friend, and I want to be very, I don't want to say protect the person's identity. So, okay.
Right.
I don't want to make it secretive. But this is a very, very, very close friend. And so when we would all get together, it was always coming to my house, going to the other person's house, Christmas party, year went by, 2 years, 3 years, never this person's house. 5 years. So finally, this is the truth. After 4 years, and I can usually get pretty much out of anybody. You know me, I'm pretty good at
you got everything there was to get out of me within the first 10 minutes.
But what I realized was obviously what was being hid was so painful. Do you see? Or there was something so huge, some huge secret. So then we find out a nervous breakdown night that she admits she's a hoarder and that you can't there's black mold all over the house, in the refrigerator, in the vents.
Terrible.
As you open the front door and do where the lock goes in, there's even black mold there. The sink fell through. She can't get anything fixed. The plumbing that broke, the washer that overflowed because she's embarrassed to bring a plumber in. And then you're afraid that they'll call the health department or a psychiatrist or the DeKalb County and you get it.
Yeah.
So then they start worrying about the myriad of things that can happen to them.
It leads to other things. I can totally see that worry.
And then the shame of telling us, even her best friends, because you're in here, you're in my offices, Bailey, and you're also in our home.
Yeah.
And she comes into these beautiful places that are neat and clean and organized.
Right.
And it increased her shame, which I didn't know. None of us knew. So all this energy, her whole life and so we tried to do an intervention, ask if we could, get one of those things delivered. We'd go out on a Saturday and Sunday with gloves but that did not work for years. So now I want to be clear. This is in one end of the clutter spectrum.
Right. This is an extreme.
This is an extreme.
Of sorts, yeah.
But it was my first big gut thing back at the church, and this was my second big gut thing of personally loving and knowing someone.
Right.
And then you have your garden variety clutters, like my daughter, who's a doctor, who's cleaning in scrubs at work, and amazing and perfect, and one of the greatest docs that ever lived. And honey, when you go into that house, hazmat alert. And so it's like, whoa.
Oh, you're such her mom.
Whoa. My husband will not even, her dad, won't even go down there anymore at all.
Really? Oh.
So, yeah, it's caused, and it does cause, I'm telling you, we've been in family counseling. You can joke about this.
Yeah.
We have.
Yeah.
And this is how it pans out in a family for you, for your future use when you guys have kids, is that it's my house, it's my it's my power, it's my choice. It is. All of that is so friggin' true. And the other side of the coin is, remember, what I do for a living is psychology, spirituality. So I'm worried.
You're not looking at the mess. You're looking at.
Thank you. I'm looking at the soul living in this, and what does it mean?
Yeah.
Then you have my husband, who's a physician, who's looking at it in the old metaphors of his Baptist upbringing. Cleanliness is next to godliness.
Yes. God.
A cluttered mind is a mind of the devil. So he's got all this junk swirling around in this cesspool of a mind. I'm kidding, darling. I'm kidding. But so everybody's issues, isn't it cool?
Yeah.
How isn't clutter just fascinating? How it can drill down. Think about this as cool. Be the hawk and think over this. Mm-hmm. Soar. Isn't it amazing? Some simple thing like clutter, you think, clutter. But look what you and I are talking about now from the beginning of where we started talking.
It reveals layers. There's layers for sure.
Yeah.
And we've gone through a few different layers.
Right. Because, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of people that come in our home, what this brought up for me when I really started studying this as a stress issue, was a lot of people like us, but they acted like strange after they came into our home. I'm very serious. These were friends or parties we'd have.
After the first time they came in?
Yeah. And they'd come through our house or look at, I collect, antiquities and artifacts and things. And, it's just who we are, very neat and organized.
Yeah.
That I didn't realize it. I just thought it was who we be. I didn't know it would bring up other people's issues. That's how naivete or whatever.
Right.
I thought that we had halitosis. They didn't like what I was serving. But the reason I'm mentioning this is clutter or no clutter brings up all of our issues. And isn't it interesting? It's the way our adaptation, our DNA from the beginning of humankind is organized. Okay, so now let's go back to adaptation.
Right.
If we lived in a tribe and we each had our little hut.
Okay.
Now, if you were a filthy over where you are, disease, you had a menstrual period, you were cut on a hunt, your arm, an infection, and you piled up your rags or the leaves or whatever, it would grow and could grow mold and things that would infect the other part of the tribe, right?
Thus affecting everyone. Right.
Affecting everyone, exactly. Then the other side is you could become, and your family in that hut could become more immune compromised, immunoglobulins and all that because of that risk, right? Then you can contagion just like contagious. So the adaptation thing in our brain, our souls.
It goes back.
Yeah.
So
this is taking judgment out of it, right? You
and I
are
this
going
was
back
like a
to
self-preservation thing.
Yeah. That our brain immediately, isn't this cool, identifies disorganization and clutter and goes, red alert, red alert, red alert. Isn't this cool?
Yeah.
And even our smell, whether it's blood or feces or rot, decomposition, necrotic. Look at dogs and animals. First thing they do is smell. They can smell any of that.
Right.
And it's because if it's death, you stay away from it and you would never eat it.
Right. Exactly.
And so I'm just saying that clutter, you and I are really drilling down, but I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I do? I don't know. I'm
Yeah, and it's
This is what I love about our podcast. None of this, by the way, is ever is it planned?
No, heavens no.
He and I have like a dartboard, and we start off with a topic, and we throw the dart, and then
sometimes it hits the wall.
And then we go get caffeine and coffee. And then, of course, I have the research.
But I think this is like taking it all the way back. This is why, because we say we're approaching it of a place of no judgment. And we, as humanity can't have gotten to that point. But the root of it goes back to what you're saying, to this
survival,
tribal type living.
Adaptation.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I think we're now at a place in our society and in humanity to where it isn't a threat necessarily whenever you see clutter, but I think that could be the root of the judgment that some people feel.
Right, but you understand, so it's a survival mechanism.
Of course.
It is adaptation at the highest level.
It goes all the way back. Yeah.
And the other complication, I'll throw this in, because, again, as you and I say, this is always spontaneous, and I hadn't thought about it, is when we have the dollar stores, the Marshalls, the Targets, the Costcos, we are collecting more clutter and more stuff as consumers.
Great
and bringing
point.
it into our home.
Great point.
So for an example, I'm going to use a current example of bought, I think, 2 sweaters in the fall. Okay. 2 nice sweaters.
Okay.
And this is no judgment. Someone else I know bought 5 sweaters for $5 at Walmart, then bought 3 sweaters at Costco, do you see? And 2 at Marshall's. So less expensive, thinner material, whatever. Okay. I understand.
Right.
But so now we have, let's say, 10 sweaters to 2. Now, the point is really if you dollar cost average, it's the same cost.
Right. Exactly.
And and these are sustainable 2 sweaters that'll go on
You'll
20
wear the
years.
next season.
Well, 10,
and
20
the next
years.
Season,
yeah,
and
exactly.
the next season. And this person will buy 10 more
and
next
this
year.
has to do with clutter because then next year, when they come out with new colors, new fabric, you're going to buy 10 more. Mm-hmm. Do you see?
Yeah.
So then you have 20 sweaters, which is clutter, get rid of it, refuse, garbage piles. So this is as a society and as a world with climate change and everything else we're dealing with.
Yeah.
No judgment. It's just an interesting when we're talking about clutter, how we're creating by our choices more clutter.
I agree. It's something that needs to be in people's conscious because I mean we have a finite amount of space,
right?
You know, once we fill it up, that's it. I think that's a good point. A good point as well.
And I think that what I've learned about clutter is I have a couple friends in my tribe that I also noticed we never got invited over and this and that every year. I noticed that there was a whole lot of worrying about me judging them because our home was one way. And if I walked into their home, it could be different and not socioeconomically clutter.
Right.
And so I think it's an interesting thing to think about and an interesting thing to perceive. So that's embarrassment and isolation. And needless to say, it causes isolation. I mean,
Agreed.
you know, because the shame and everything else
Agreed.
involved. And there's another thing, slip and falls. It's very dangerous to have clutter everywhere because, you know, you're crawling over. This friend of mine who became this person that just really got overwhelmed with clutter, she had some falls, by the way, started developing some lung disease. Fact.
Breathing in the spores
and then after
and
several years, you know, has pretty significant heart disease now, which we're dealing with. And I adore her and love her and worship her. So this is a hard thing to deal with. And I'm not saying it's all clutter. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that the exacerbation of it does not help with the science of it. And then I think there's an interesting story and a study on neatness, and decluttering and generosity. There's a study that showed volunteers who filled out surveys in a neat room, now this is interesting, were more likely to say they wanted to donate to a charity compared to those who were questioned and filled out the same exact questionnaire in a messy room. Is that not interesting?
Wow, that is interesting.
And it was almost wanted to give 2 times as much, whether it was their time, money, energy. Isn't that interesting? That we actually want to open up and be more altruistic. So interesting. This is a brain soul thing. Isn't it cool?
Yeah, that's some deep stuff right there. That's a 30-minute conversation in and of itself. And I feel like I could find applications in other areas too, like cleanliness. Like, for example, I work at a recording studio. Every time a client comes to the studio, it looks the exact same as the last time they arrived to the studio. That is our objective. We give you a blank thing. It looks as if nothing has happened since you've been there.
Really?
And you're talking about the openness.
How mindful is that?
Well, a studio is a playground for creativity.
Right.
So we wanted to maintain this
familiarity
constant, so you
too?
come in and you can just go creative overload.
I didn't know this.
So it's cool because I think there's hundreds of other different scenarios in which that could be altruistic. Yeah. That's really interesting.
It also affects memory issues. We look at research that shows people who live in cluttered homes, they have poor working memory. And our research really details that. And again, here we look with distraction. I can see that. Remember, because we talked about the other research study that said they're distracted, and that makes sense, right? Because
is working memory like a short-term memory? I'm not familiar with that term.
Working memory is, yes.
Like where did I put the remote
everything is, where you
type?
put everything, everything's gone. Well, and you can imagine the frustration of looking, also cluttering. You're spending your time looking for keys, looking for
the scissors or
the scissors, your phone, whatever, one shoe, two shoes, and whatever you're looking for. That in itself is, I know we all know, frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
And it's linked to weight gain. We see that people that clutter and people that hoard, it leads to a higher BMI, binge eating disorders. They weigh 10% more than other people and then start gaining weight that they cannot take off.
Wow,
their adipose tissue, their fat cells in their abdomen are bigger. Is this not interesting?
Yeah, that's wild.
And I think it's interesting that we're talking about abdominal fat and adipose tissue too, because if you think about where that is, it's almost like a pregnancy. Isn't this interesting? It's like I'm carrying this clutter. I'm carrying this baby. I'm carrying this weight. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then finally, another research study, which I found interesting, was insomnia. There's a direct link between clutter and insomnia. That, when you have clutter in a house, the brain does not want to release. It's attached to the clutter. It's very cool. Mm-hmm. And so your REM, the time it takes you to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
If you get up to go to the bathroom at night, your brain has to, for survival, again, adaptation, it has to navigate to go to the bathroom through the clutter. Do you see what I mean? Or whatever, and back. So you're making it work harder.
Thus prolonging the amount of time before you get to go back to that restful state. That totally makes sense.
I just love this stuff.
Yeah.
Because before
These are correlations I would never make on my own, but after you reading those studies findings to me, it's logical. I'm able to see the connect. Nothing I would come on my own, but wow, those are the most interesting facts in my mind, are the ones that are palpable like that. Wow.
And then also, the emotional load. What we know is research shows that of course, people that are cluttered experience clutter. Not necessarily hoarding, but real clutter. Mm-hmm. They have anxiety disorders. They have more depression. They have feelings of guilt, worthlessness, helplessness. You can understand that. I would. Yeah. Irritability, loss of pleasure in regular activities because they live on overload.
Right.
And they're constantly overwhelmed because if you have 10,000 newspapers stacked up and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is still coming, or Good Housekeeping, or whatever
stops.
it is.
It comes every day.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
I could totally see how that could be extremely overwhelming and just crippling.
And just chronic fatigue and difficulty concentrating. So for me, just in what we've talked about so far, I have so much compassion for this. Is, again, as you and I always say, no judgment zone here.
Right. Yeah.
Just
We're
total,
coming as we are here, man.
Total compassion. Mm-hmm. And what I wanted to say was, I heard you and Vanna talking about even when you leave here, how you put your cords away and how organized you are. Yeah. And when you come in and we do our podcast or any work you do with the company and our people here, to me, it is just like a holy ritual to watch your declutter organization. He comes in here and again, growing up Catholic as a little girl, sitting in the third row, 9 people took up the whole pew.
Yeah.
I had a first range view. But to me, when Bailey sets all this up and has this table is like an altar for him. You should see it. And his equipment, his earphones, his Mac, everything is just like it reminds me archetypally.
Check out the coil on the ground of the cable.
I see it. Yes. It's perfect. I wish you could see a picture. We'll have to start taking pictures.
Yeah,
we'll have to have links to the pictures we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's just, again, flashback. I told him this was not prearranged. Nothing we ever do is
never
prearranged.
We've tried.
We've tried. It doesn't work with us.
Nope.
Little caffeine and we're off and running, just like a Delta jet.
Yeah.
Is that it reminded me of the priest when the chalice is there and shining and you have the linens that are starched and everything is, when you're especially a child, the awe of the transubstantiation that's happening up there. Then after it was over and he left, and then the deacon or whoever it was came in at the end or the nun and cleaned it up. Everything was perfectly, neatly put away in its place.
Yeah.
And you sat there as a kid in awe. It reminds me of you, that you may not see. I'm observing you,
right,
different than the way you're experiencing yourself.
Yeah.
That I watched you, and today when we did clutter, and we decided to do this, I watched you put everything in its place, put the chalice, okay?
Yeah.
The microphone here in the middle of your altar.
Yeah.
And watched everything so exquisitely put away. And then I thought, and when he leaves, I witness the process of the benediction, him blessing this place before he leaves. And it's just unbelievable. And again, this ties in with the beauty of his practice, his business practice, his spiritual practice. It's a physical practice.
Yeah.
And think about it. It keeps your head clear that when you come here, you're ready to execute. You're not digging for chords, digging for this, digging for.
Yeah. When you told me that, I'm just over here beaming because I just consider that such a high form of praise from you, from anyone, really, that it's almost like a religious experience. But like I said, working at a studio that, everything is the same. I adopt that principle at my home studio whenever clients come in. It looks the same every time. I just feel like if there's something that if I can provide that consistency, then that gives us, I'm not worried about where the cables are. I'm not worried about how the cables run here, where the mic is placed. All that's done ahead of time so that we can get to the most important thing, which is the dialogue that we have with each other and that we have with you folks out there listening to us.
It does. It focuses.
So that enables us to have that creative and just kind of we don't plan any.
Beautiful.
We try to plan this, but like you said, we riff 90% of the time.
Absolutely.
And I think that if the computer wasn't in the same place every time and the headphones weren't in the same place every time, that would just be another factor. And none of that matters. It only matters that we're able to talk to each other and we're able to talk to you out there.
I didn't think about that. That's beautiful.
So that's the justification for it in my mind. And also, whenever I clean up and this room goes back to exactly the way I found it before, that's just me being gracious that you've opened up your offices and your homes to me, and I want to make sure I get an invitation back next time.
Oh, how beautiful.
That's me trying to leave this place better than what I found it. And that was instilled in me.
Well, now I'm going to cry.
Yay! Mission accomplished. That. I was trying to get some cheers out of you.
and he knows when you come into the front of this building, it has the Hermitage. Which is the name of the place. And when you come in, as he would tell you probably, everything is the same, whether it's artwork, isn't it? It's the same.
Exactly.
And it's a rhythm and a cadence. And again, from teaching early church history and pre-Reformation theology when I was at Emory and everything else and teaching world religions, remember, your home back then is where you had church. We didn't have churches way back.
Yeah.
And so it would be at Bailey's home, Kathleen's home, and you rotated it. Pre-Hellenic period, pre-325, 340, before we started building churches. So, of course, your home was, everybody in the community was going to be there.
Exactly.
Whether you broke bread, whether you read scripture, whatever you did, fellowship. Yeah. They came in, and so there was an ebb and a flow. Everybody wove in and out of each other's lives.
Yeah.
So our home here is exactly as I taught, as you well know. Even if you come in, we can do a whole, again, you and I, another podcast. Your home is your sanctuary. It is your womb. And when you come in, I even have, 100-year-old water fountains of angels as you come in. That I used to even keep water in, that if you wanted to bless yourself or make the sign of the cross when you entered or exited the home. Because you are leaving and entering holy space that I intentionally keep decluttered, a rhythm, organized, so that whatever souls come in here, I want to keep this vibrational frequency, this energy at such a peaceful, high, serene level that whatever issues, whatever love, anger, shame, fear, that it feels totally safe.
Yeah.
And when you declutter and have this kind of a place and hold the space, sacred space, then just like you holding the space here for us to be spontaneous and open and free and connected to the spirit world.
Same exact parallel.
It's the same flow. And if you look at physics, it's really the same way. It's the same way that electrons and when you have a thought and it's tied with a electrical spark and tied with a chemical reaction in your body.
Right.
It's the same type of physics. So, and thank you for being mindful and noticing that everything in this home is kept. And it's a vigilant thing, not hypervigilant. It's a daily practice. Yeah, it's intentional. And it's a spiritual practice.
It's intentional. Yeah,
very much.
Whenever I walk into this room, the room that we record the podcast in, every time I walk in, I see Christmas trees on the carpet which is the telltale sign of a vacuumed carpet. That was something that was instilled into me as probably 5 or 6 years old when my mom was teaching me how to vacuum. God bless her. She taught me so early how to use the vacuum. And she was like, it's not right until you see the Christmas trees, John. That's what it was. So that's why also whenever I come in here, I feel like I try to be so delicate because I'm walking in and just bringing in my footprints and stuff. And I'm like, well, I got to do something to bring this back to what it was. You ought to leave it. I guarantee you, if you started leaving a vacuum in here, I'd vacuum before I left. Just you could throw that out there.
But isn't it interesting? Look at us doing this podcast. I never thought of this before.
What?
Part of our unfolding in this room with what we do is this clean slate.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think about it.
Oh, no, I think that's a high attribute to it. I mean, seriously, like everything. Well, this entire building is very intentional, and it's just that will permeate whatever is done. That intentionality. That's a word.
And what we're saying is this is not special him and his recording thing. This is not special me, this place, our office, the Hermitage. You can do this too today.
Yeah.
Okay, here we're talking about February, March, changing your life. Mm-hmm. We talked about this is an opportune time. Please, if you don't believe and energetically make and practice your home being your synagogue, your temple, your sanctuary, your nest, your womb, whatever term suits you in your theology, spirituality, psychological construct.
Right.
Please, it is the opportunity of a lifetime. And I cannot tell you, in a long marriage like we've had, how fights up and down, leaving each other, me wanting a divorce, not, making up, loving, falling back in love madly again. Do not underestimate the clean slate of this home, this womb that we've created, where we meet, where we don't have a lot of clutter, even confusing us even more.
Yeah.
And even in arguments like, there are your socks, there's this, why do you have 20 stacks of newspapers? It
distracts you from the real things that are going on.
Oh, that's good. Distraction is a good word.
Yeah, because, if you're focused on the socks or the dirty dishes or whatever, there's always something a layer deeper than that. So it enables you to get to that.
And you're a creator. I think it's interesting. I had a big, huge speech to give yesterday, and during it, Andrew had to go through Google Drive and retrieve a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And she said, holy God. She said, did you know you wrote 2 books, one in 2009, and you wrote another book in 2014? And I found them. I went, I forgot about that. And then she said, and do you know that I found like 1,000 more articles, and I found blah, 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 blah. And she said, how in God's name, with everything that you do, did you do this? And this is hitting me right now. This is our spontaneous gift of this podcast for each of us. It's because of this openness of this. See, like after you leave, when I have all these new ideas that I haven't thought about before.
You just get to have a catharsis.
Yeah, I go into the back, that beautiful porch, and I'll sit there, handwritten, and put notes from Bailey, da-da-da-da-da, and it'll be an outline. And this has been a practice probably for 40 years.
Yeah.
And then later, my brain will gather around clutter or organization or color. What do colors mean in your spiritual, blah, blah, whatever the topic is.
Yeah.
And again, I hadn't thought about it till right now, that maybe part of my incredibly creative life and my husband's tremendously peaceful, productive life has been this. Now that I've never thought about it in this construct. Get it?
You think about it. You come inside from a world where you have zero control.
Wow. Control. That's interesting.
I mean, because we've discussed this in the past too. That's when you lose control, that's whenever stress begins. So
exactly.
You come out of this place you have no control in, and then you are the master of this domain if you're fortunate enough to be in a physical home.
I want to press this too, because I've been on television shows and radio shows and all kinds of stuff in my amazingly blessed life. I've had irate women call in and go, how dare you? You have a house. I live in a tiny apartment. How dare you tell me or give me? And that's an excuse. Sorry, I'm going to call you out on that. I don't care. I have lived in my $300 a month efficiency apartment with a baby and no money and on bed rest and a sick baby. And so I no money, no nothing. I don't want to hear excuses. And you know me, I'm the no excuse person.
No, yeah.
And
ain't nobody got time for that.
Stop it. Yeah. That's why it's important right now. This time of year, February, in the winter.
It's not for us. It's for you.
Exactly. And there's a reason it's winter right now. It's a time spiritually of lying and follow. Look at the trees. Look at everything. They're naked. They have surrendered their leaves, their roots, their lives. They're lying and follow. They're sleeping, receiving, surrendering, listening.
Preparing for the rebirth.
This, please, mirror nature right now. That's what Bailey and I are kind of asking all of us as a globe, not just the United States, not just here in Atlanta. Trust the process. Trust the seasonal process of this is lying fallow. Look at the clutter in your lives. And that's going to lead us to, I've segmented it for our, we always try to shift to a tip or info or whatever part of clearing the clutter. So I've done it on 3 different levels of mind and your home, work, and technology.
Okay.
So just to give you a little simple and start small, one tiny thing. Yeah. Like if it's not leaving dishes in your bedroom at night. If it's before you go to bed, we have a rule. We never leave dishes in the sink.
Right.
Whatever the spiritual practice is, I may have 20 piles of clothes when I go to bed from taking off 3 times during the day for interviews or whatever I do. And when I go to bed at night, I'm tired and my Jack Russells are laying on, 3 pair of slacks or whatever. But I got news for you. When I get up in the morning, that stuff's getting put up or in the washing machine.
You better believe it.
And then I have another pile since he knows I have dogs, cats, everything but elephants in this house. Everything's covered with hair. Then I have a pile for rollers that I'm going to have to roll hair off of it, before I wear it again.
Oh, yeah.
But the point is it's really organizing and decluttering in a way.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have a place in the washroom for those that aren't dirty, but they need de-haired. So, okay, let's begin with cluttering your mind.
Okay.
Instead of leaving, if you're shooting us a bird or drawing pictures about us right now, going, blah, 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 they don't live my life and my house is just a piece of... Okay, stop it right now. Let's get a new mind straight, new mind construct. Decluttering is an adventure. You're a superhero. You're going off into a journey. So whether it's your garage, your bedroom, a drawer in your kitchen, okay, you're on an adventure. Be optimistic, open-minded. Experience this as a decluttering journey. It's a new life, okay? One step at a time. No big deal. Start off with a drawer. Start off with the freezer. I don't care where you start. Where you need to start, your porch. Okay, so that's number 1. Adventure. This is not an indictment. This is not another, I listen to their podcast. I have one more thing to do in my life. No, stop it. Okay. It's an adventure.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's a journey to freedom. This is the road to freedom.
Yeah. And like you said, start with the junk drawer. Start with, like the place where, start with the door of your refrigerator.
Amen,
get rid
baby.
of some of those
condiments. That's a good small one. Just the door.
Just
I love that. I love that. That's great.
Pull out the vegetable drawers and just wipe them out.
Yeah,
Do that once.
I got some teriyaki sauce last night. Went to put it on. It smelled a little rank. I looked at it. it was only 2015. And so I tried to talk myself into
Dijon mustard from 20 years ago.
maybe it's like fine wine.
Yeah.
And then my husband called me from the hospital and I told him and he was like, throw that stuff away. He said, it's rancid. I'll come home and you'll be dead.
Classic Jim.
I went, oh, okay, honey. He said, clean out that refrigerator. I said, yes, darling. Okay, I got that. So now we're on the mind. Meditation and guided imagery. Begin to learn to clear your mind by taking a meditation or a guided imagery class. I love on iTunes. You download it. Her name is Bella Ruth Naprasak. You can go to our site. Her name is there. You can email us. We'll give you. She's the best. I love her. I've used her and trained under her for 25 years. She started out, she was one of the first people in this whole stuff. Guided imagery, she was a pioneer. Cleveland Clinic, started with cancer patients, an amazing human being. But anyway, guided imagery, Calm app, all of them have guided imagery stuff. Clear your mind. Meditation, you can go on to our app. You can go on to our site, ourmln.com. We've got all kinds of meditation and guided imagery stuff for you. Next, clearing rituals. Create or learn clearing rituals. You may want to take a shower or a bath with your favorite fragrance and imagine your worries and stresses going down the drain. Light a candle in your home and imagine the flame is clearing your space. I just told Bailey we had a bunch of people here that stayed for a few weeks, strangers, people I did not know. But I thought, well, I'll just try something new. And I will bring these people from Pennsylvania, New York, and Chicago into my home and let them stay here till they find a place. Well, some stuff happened. I won't go into the thing, but they left, and my scientific husband, who is not this isn't his practice, what I do. He's a medical doctor.
Yeah.
But he immediately said, you need to smudge the house. He said, we need to do this. I'll do it with you. We went through with an eagle feather, with sage, with drum, everything, every floor, every room. And I do it all 4 seasons, the first day of spring, the first day of summer, fall, winter. And again, in my experience, I have lived with native tribes. I've lived with healers and stuff, and it is a core spiritual practice of them. So I totally believe in clearing rituals. Also, clearing space every 2 hours. Stop, take deep breaths. Inhale, exhale, your lungs, and exhale your worries and your racing thoughts. Again, get an app you love to remind you about clearing every 2 hours. I don't care if it's listening to your favorite music. I have a favorite shamanic drumming app. Listen to it for 2 minutes. Listen to nature sounds. Listen to ocean sounds. You can go to the Mindful Living app. Our app is fabulous. By the way, our podcasts are on there also. But anyway,
shameless plug.
Clear your mind. Next is clear your home. Resources are everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Clutter is a human problem. So don't feel special or why me or stop it. We all do it.
Oh, yeah.
If you're taking a breath, you're human.
Why do you think we have so much to talk about on this subject? I mean, so like we said, a place of no judgment. We've been through it.
Yeah, and the other thing is we live in a world of resources. Google, books, tapes, YouTube. There are resources everywhere for decluttering and organizing. You are not alone. Again, videos on YouTube, consultants you can hire. A friend of mine got so overwhelmed. She had a diagnosis because all of her clutter in life led to her being sick.
Wow.
She was overwhelmed, was on overload. Okay, no YouTube for her, no nothing. We just picked up the phone. It was inexpensive. We hired a decluttering person. She came in, I swear to God to you, within 1 week, I wept at the difference in not only her house, Helen's house, but in her life.
Yeah.
She went on and went from, it was a significant diagnosis. 4 months later, remission, everything wonderful, life-changing. Okay, was it the chicken or the egg? She took control of her life.
Who's to say? But I think the results speak for themselves.
This brought up a flashpoint. She'd been living this way her whole life.
Yeah.
Overwhelmed.
Coincidence.
Couldn't do it herself.
Yeah.
Take the money. It's one of the biggest investments. Hire. These declutter people are amazing. They change your life. I hired one when I moved into this house.
Really?
You've been to my storage room.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Paul did that. I was moving in and I was moving all the stuff from the farm.
I've had to retrieve something from back there. Like everything's labeled and in like these plastic
Not
bins.
me, baby. That was Paul. He came here and lovingly did it. He sang, whistled. So here, this is not my deal.
Yeah.
I don't clean up crap like this. He joyfully, he said, Dr. Hall, this is my calling. He did. He said, I love junk and clutter. He said, the minute I do, my brain starts organizing it. I kissed him, paid him double what he billed me for. And so please.
Go nuts, buddy.
Yeah, you're not alone. They're everywhere. Hire somebody. Next is box it up. There are boxes everywhere. Okay, get your neighbor's Amazon boxes that are out in the trash to be recycled.
Yeah, put them to some good use.
Put them to some good use. Organized. Get yourself a Sharpie. Have your family do it. Organize it, okay? Box it up. If you can't do it today, again, get a storage unit. Don't get it permanently. Get a timetable on it. 1 month, 3 months. Because if you do it in perpetuity, you won't go back. Make it happen where it's short term.
Remind me to invest in one of those places.
Yeah, and go there, put it there, and then force yourself. And it either goes into the pile to go back home, it goes to be given away to a charity or to a neighborhood yard sale. And again, you can go on Facebook and everywhere. The Nextdoor app, there are always places people are having these sales, and they would love to have your things. Or pick up the phone and call the Kidney Foundation, Salvation Army, whatever. They'll pick it up
for you.
They do. They pick it up. And then designer organizers. These are California, closets. These are people that build shelves, cabinets to organize. They used to be tremendously expensive. It would be like thousands of dollars to have these people come in your house.
You can go to IKEA, drop like $200 and like completely revamp your entire closet.
You can go Costco. I'm very serious. You can go to a zillion places now and buy these yourself, and they snap together. Again, it's very sturdy now.
Yeah.
It's not something to throw away in the trash in 2 to 3 years. They'll last you a good 20 years. So invest in that. And then next on your home, baby steps. You didn't get her overnight. It's going to take you a while, okay? If it's everywhere.
Right.
And imagine, again, please, you're on some spiritual, wonderful, think of some Odyssey, whether it's an Avalon thing in your head, Star Wars, if you're a Star Wars freak. I don't care.
Guilty.
Yeah, which, the Iliad, I don't know, whatever fantasy you have, Wonder Woman, but make it a journey. And there is going to be a blessing and a freedom with every step of the way. I promise you that. One room at a time, one drawer at a time, one closet at a time, one day at a time, okay? And then be graceful. And by that, I mean small GRACE and large capital FULL. Be full of grace. Be kind and gentle with yourself during this process. Get an ice cream cone, get a pedicure, take a bath. Look at the 5 bags you did on Saturday afternoon.
Oh, yes.
Stop along the way, prop your feet up, celebrate the decluttering, freeing and liberating your mind, your body, and your soul.
I love it.
And finally, work. Declutter your workspace. Clear off your desk. What we know, we have great studies that show that people that come in the morning with clean desks are twice as productive. Fact.
Boom. That's reason enough.
More successful, happier. The employees and bosses that come in know you take your work seriously.
Exactly.
It is a mirror. Your desk is a mirror of what's going on in your mind. Second is beauty. It's your work. Use your favorite color. The photos you love, plants you love, spreads, pillows if you have a little couch or a chair. Once you claim your workspace as a place of beauty and creativity, organization and efficiency, your entire life will change. And everybody at work is going to change. I have helped people. I helped somebody at Oprah Studios at one point go in there, and it changed her health. It changed her marriage. It changed a child. It changed everything that we went in there, got her favorite color, got her favorite pictures we blew up, a can of paint, took ownership, bought some inexpensive pillows. I can't even tell you how that room changed.
And how much of an investment was that financially?
I think it was
time?
Right at $300, maybe $250,
and maybe a day.
Oh, exactly. And
the quality of life. What a small investment for what a great ROI.
Well, and it turned out amazingly because that was, I think, my first Oprah show, and then it turned into us falling in love with each other, and I just lived there in a revolving door for a long time. And it wasn't just because of quid pro quo; it was because life changed for all of us out of love. And last is tasks. Don't forget to get rid of the clutter on your computer, your emails, and this is technology, your apps. My husband went to use one of my apps the other night, and he said, "You have 62 apps on your iPad," and I knew we were going to do clutter, and I burst out laughing. And he said, I know. I'm flooded. I got to go through every app and get rid of them, and some iOS updates. What the hell, Jim? And he's like, that's what happens to people like you that get apps. I've only got 4 apps on my phone. And I went, yeah, you're Tarzan in prehistoric, sugar. Neanderthal, man. No, thanks. Anyway, so that's one of my spring clearing is not the house. I'm pretty, as you well know, psychologically, spiritually okay. But when I looked at those apps, I went, so any of us are going to show up, I think. Don't you think? Somewhere on this
I think
tip list I made.
With one of those or more.
Yeah.
I'm definitely, I do a lot of work inside the box technology and stuff. So, clearing email, that's a big one. Also, I work with audio and recording and stuff like that. One thing that's been great working with you is a byproduct of your organization has rubbed off on me is my organization of just file management inside a computer. It's so important, especially in a field like this. I think in many fields. Yeah,
and I won't name a name, but one of our staff people, our team, that she's great at helping me create content, but just throws it on Google Drive. So when I want something, and her comment always is, just put it in the search. Well, I'll take 50% of the time, it won't show up in the search because it's a different terminology or whatever. And I said, here's the hobgoblin of success.
Right.
You can create all the content and like you in the music business.
But what if you can't access it?
But if you can't access it, and I said, it's a cost-benefit ratio. I own this company or companies. I have spent time, energy, money, your salary, me creating the content, me getting an interview on CBS, whatever it is. Okay, this was a cost center, an expense center, and a creative content center. So if it goes down into the bottom of a black hole, all of that is lost.
It does nothing for us.
Yeah, so no, I don't care if it's 3 sentences. I want it labeled.
Yeah.
Put in the right place. Exactly, and accessible. Yeah. So to me, I think that's one of the, because I know you know this, when you deal with tech people that work with you, for you on the team, lots of times they'll do the stuff, or anybody, do the task and throw it in. Like, oh, did my check, did that. That was on my check, did that. And then they throw it in a wastebasket, like a wastebasket for me. Yeah. But if it's not accessible, like your music or the stuff you need, what's it worth?
It's worth nothing. And I think a lot of people maybe listening can relate to that, because a lot of people rely on technology in the workplace and stuff like that. So, yeah, do yourself a favor. Clean out your email inbox. It'll take you 2 hours, but, man, that feeling when you have 0 unread emails. Whew,
well, and I have probably 500 a day, 800 a day. Yeah. See, so if
you don't stay on top of it, you're gonna drown.
Yeah, like I was sick, as you well know, and I skipped a couple days, and it was 4, it was 6,000, something like that, 7,000. So but instead of dreading it though, and the stress that I used to, now again I take it as a spiritual practice. I take it that
you're Wonder Woman on an adventure, man.
Yeah, exactly. I take it like 50 at a time and go, maybe I got a note from my aunt.
Yeah,
or maybe somebody at CNBC. After that article. Get it?
Yeah.
I have to look at it like, or maybe my sister, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
It's like opening presents almost. Yeah.
So, but again, attitude.
That's key, man. That's key.
Okay, well, again, we didn't know where we were going. We started off with a piece of paper.
Yeah, but I love it. Just like, decluttering's a journey. Every time we do a podcast, it's a journey. We'll never know where we end.
Well, I was a swimmer, competitive swimmer in grade school and high school. In Florida, went to state and all that stuff. But anyway, so I have the mind of one. So how I think of it now, when you and I come in here, I think of it like I train, trained, I did backstroke. And you get up on the block. And when you and I are up on the block is when we come in and you turn this switch.
Yeah, recording.
And then we jump into this pool, except what I did had lanes in it, and you were disqualified.
This is a friggin' free-for-all, man.
and it's not a rectangle. It's a circular circle.
Yeah, it's like an amoeba-ish type shape. Yeah,
exactly.
Totally.
But I just thought I'd tell you that image of us is no lanes, no nothing. No timer.
No timer.
No, how many strokes per second?
Nope.
Yeah. No, your backflip when you got to the end took to 1.2 seconds too long? Nah, we just jump in and
what we do.
And as my husband said, sometimes I call it the Holy Spirit. My husband, growing up Baptist, and he laughs at me, he calls it the Holy Go. He said, honey, I listened to you and Bailey. He's from South Georgia.
That's a pretty good impression.
Anyway, it is. Bailey does it. And all I want to tell you, upon reflection.
Upon reflection.
He said, you guys take off. And he said, I don't know if you guys know this, but I think the Holy Go takes over at times. And I laughed my you-know-what off. I said, honey,
so good.
I do love you so precious. After 45 years, I love you more every day because you're just adorable.
That's the Holy Go. Guys, thank y'all so much for being with us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Check us out on the web, ourmln.com, which is OURMLN.com, or mindfullivingnetwork.com. Email us at info@mindfullivingnetwork.com if you have any suggestions for future episodes, or you just want to say hey. Reach out to us on social media if you've decluttered something recently. I would love to see a before and after of some junk drawers out there. Seriously. If you guys give me some before and afters, I'll give you some before and afters, and you can hold me to a level of accountability. Thanks again so much for being with us. My name is John Bailey. Make sure you call me Bailey, and this was the way I see it.
And I am Dr. Kathleen Hall. Thank you for joining us. This is the way I see it.